Day 7 of the League of Legends World Championship has concluded, and the topic at the tip of everybody's tongue is TSM's 0-6 performance and how they ended up in this scenario. One of the biggest key points throughout the entire campaign was what people might have dubbed the 9-man sleep in their match against Gen G, where they accrued a rather large lead but were unable to close it out against the third seed from the LCK. This is what goes into a team fight and how teams tend to short call 5v5s. This is the famous moment that we are looking at hand, where Spica on Lilia has gone in and slapped all 5 members of TSM. Nobody on the side of TSM decides to follow up, and the only kill they get from this is a swirl sweep onto life, picking up a solo kill for Spica. Some have attributed it to TSM's unwillingness to play to win, saying that they'd rather play not to lose. But if we go back and examine the basics, it will give us a better idea of how this happened and how can TSM prevent this in the future. To get a better understanding of this, we have to understand that there are 3 major modes of team fighting. The first is the all-in and chase down, the second is the pick and disengage, and the third is the kite and re-engage. All 3 modes are rather self-explanatory, and they share a rock paper scissors relationship to one another. In general, being able to re-engage on your opponents and chase them down would always be good against teams that want to pick off single targets, who would then be effective against teams that repeatedly want to kite back, picking off people on the fringes and then disengaging away and punishing their lack of overall engage. While against teams that want to rush you head on first, being able to control a zone and kite them through chokes will always be a useful tool. Let's examine the team compositions. On the side of TSM, the Volibear brings them single target lockdown. Spica on the Lilia is a sticky champion with area of effect damage. Vixen on the Lucian is a form of single target DPS, and Doublelift playing the Aphelios brings 200 years of 550 range influence as an immobile DPS. Biofrost is a trash, strong in the laning phase, and a single target lockdown. But most importantly, he holds the team's only disengage spell in the form of his ultimate being the box, being able to erect a pentagon for 5 seconds, through which the opponents would struggle to pass through. On the side of, and so for TSM, which of the 3 team fighting modes are available to them? The most obvious one would be to go for the pick and disengage, and due to them having a sticky champion in the likes of the Lilia as well as the Lucian, who can get off a reset on the E if he does his combos properly, they should be able to play an all-in and chase down style as well. However, against the composition of Gen G, they do not really have access to the kite and re-engage style, as they do get outranged by the likes of the Orianna and the Senna. As for Gen G, they have a single target build-up in the form of Tahm Kench, who tends to be extremely effective against single target big compositions. Ruler playing the Senna gives them the range advantage, which allows them to take a kite in team fight, as with Orianna. And the Orianna ultimate as well as on ultimate presents huge zoning tools that can swing a team fight very quickly in their favor, should TSM find themselves walking into a choke. Gen G's options to take team fights are a lot much more. Should they have a manpower advantage, they do have decent pick tools to make something happen, and they are able to control zones to disengage away from that as well. Should they win a team fight around their neutral objectives, the speed boost from the Orianna Dissonance as well as Senna will be able to chase down opponents. But their primary approach to team fighting would always be to kite their opponents using the superior range, and should their opponents chase them at the choke points, they would then re-engage onto them. Let's take a look at the start of the fight, where TSM they go for A+2, where they flash forward in a very aggressive manner and go onto the Orianna. I won't be looking at missed skill shots or how they calculate the CC better. This is simply how teams short call team fights, and control the flow of what happens in a 5v5. And following the style pick and disengage, they will want to immediately do as much DPS as possible, staying in the neutral 0 position before popping the box and then kiting back. Whereas on the side of Gen G, as the kite and re-engage team, they want to kite back, and once the opponents walk into the trap zone, they want to re-engage onto them. At this point of time, Rascal on the Ornn is not in position to re-engage onto the trash or the volley bear at this point of time. Once you move in the kiting back phase, what TSM should be aiming to do is form the concave as drawn out in the lines in red. That way, they can continue to maintain the position and the choke to prevent Gen G from accessing the rest of the team. However, this is a slight mistake as TSM chooses to push forward and deal as much DPS as they can to the Ornn. In general, this is what the team fight could have looked like if TSM simply reads this as a kite and disengage. Sorry, as a pick and disengage team fight. Go in, blow some spells, and pull out of there. In this case, they would have traded 3 flashes for Tamkencha's 1 flash on the side of Gen G. And the conclusion here is that when playing a pick and disengage team composition, what you're trying to do is create picks with manpower advantages. Going up against the likes of a Tamkench and Orianna will be rather difficult, as you would then be forcing a 5v5, and you will realize that the neutral phase, where you want to do maximum amounts of DPS before the opponent reinforces, the member being focused, will be rather short. And as we see, immediately after engaging, Trash is forced to pop the box, forcing TSM to move into the kite back phase of the pick and disengage composition. Now, how could this have been different? Gen G's Rascal actually makes a mistake in this team fight. After missing his ultimate, he uses his E to move into the rest of TSM's members. This leaves him isolated and a little too far extended from the rest of his team. Well, what Gen G wanted to do is have him re-engage into the trap zone around the choke. He went for a much more forward position, hoping to knock up the AD carry Doublelift. If TSM identify this mistake from Rascal, they could then very quickly transition their teamfight mode from a pick and disengage to an all-in and chase down, now that Gen G has got one member who's blatantly out of position. This would see the Volibear and Trash very aggressively step up to cut off the Ornn, as well as allow for the Lucian and Aphelios to be able to deal damage and chase down the rest of Gen G's members. They will probably have to trade their lives for this, but TSM would at least be able to trade 3, if not more, members in their favor should they have gone for this play. This would then allow Lucian to continue to keep his eyes on Orianna and whoever of Gen G who's continuing to be in the choke, further cutting the Ornn off. And if Gen G were to continue to be in the choke, Spica would then be able to replicate the multi-man lilting lullaby that made the headlines in the first place. Being able to identify what the flow of the team fight is and what mode of team fight that the team should be going for should be the key factor here. Spica, identifying the opportunity for this all-in chase down transition, went for it, landing a 5-man sleep. However, Broken Blade and Biofrost felt that they were still in the pick and disengage mode and did not commit to the play. And as a result, Bjergsen and Doublelift were unable to follow up on the amazing 5-man ultimate and opportunity to win the game from Spica. Gen G, with the superior skill and composition, was able to take fights after this and close out the game, sending TSM to 0-5 before their final winless 0-6 record in Group C of the World Championship 2020. And that concludes it. The 9-man sleep was not people falling behind, was not TSM catching a snooze, and it wasn't them not playing to win. It was a misidentification of what teamfight mode they were playing in, and over respecting the fact that Gen G had strong control of the choke at that point of time. If TSM had been able to do that, we might have seen a different result at the end of the day. This was the conclusion of day 7, and this content was presented to you by Jensen. If you enjoy this style of analytical content, please do give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a nice day and get hyped for Worlds.